Hello and welcome back to Willow Talk, or welcome to the first time if you are a first-time listener. Adam Peacock here with Ben Horne from the Daily Telegraph and all the News Corp papers around the place and websites. Are you more websites than papers these days?
It depends who you talk to, but both really. We're servicing both, and it's going to be a big winter of cricket. You know, we've had a bit of a quiet period here, notwithstanding the IPL being on, but. Yeah, can't wait for the Test Championship final.
Now, we're going to talk all the storylines at the moment, but throw forwards to storylines. And I want to know a bit more about what life is on tour for you blokes when you get to travel around. So as we sit here in the studio today, I'm dressed like I've gone to the skate park. You're dressed like you've actually got a job. So congratulations on that. You've got a collar on and you're going into the office, obviously, today.
This is probably the first time you've seen me wear something like this.
Hey,
I'm looking for a pay rise.
I look like I'm a bum, and you actually look like you know what you're doing, and you sound like you know what you're doing. So we'll get into that. So looking forward to having an in-depth chat about life on the road as a journo, because you've got some stories to tell. And there's one story in particular where you got put as in cartoon form in India. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about.
You decided to have a little pop at Virat, so the whole of India had a pop back at you. So I'm looking forward to that particular story and reminiscing. We've got the IPL, of course, it's in full swing. Mitch Starc, he was at it at the death in his innings for Delhi Capitals. Unfortunately, they couldn't get it done, but we'll go into that. We'll go into the fact that a 14-year-old went berserk in a game a couple of days ago. You're shaking your head still at the very thought of it. And we'll talk about some teenagers who have dominated in world sport. As mentioned, 5 big storylines to watch this winter. Sundries, county chat, and look at the Australian efforts so far. You've been keeping an eye on that, Ben?
Yeah, I have. I think, Brendan Doggett's been going really well. I know they'll be looking for a extra fast bowler to be on that World Test Championship squad. I'd be having a pretty good look at him. And Cameron Green, obviously 100 in his first game. That's quite significant. But
then went 3-4-2 or 3-2-4 or something like that.
Yeah, look, I mean, we'll get to this later. But obviously Cameron Green, I think, will be in the squad and will be putting himself in the frame. But whether or not it's too little too late for a reasonably settled batting lineup, we'll see.
We reached out as well to Fergus O'Neill, and he's going to come on next week. I'm led to believe, producer Joel has told me that, but we were trying to get him today, but unfortunately he said, I've finished my county stint. I'm off to Ireland, and unless you want an up-close and personal view of what's happening at Punchestown races, and I've heard of what goes on at that joint, I don't think it would be coherent. So we've left Fergus to his own devices for this week. It's fair enough, but good to see him taking, as we discussed with Hills early in the week.
I think he's definitely one of the most exciting players coming through in domestic cricket in Australia. I think, if you're looking for a bowler, looking a few years down the track who might be able to step up into the void of these 3 or 4 great fast bowlers that we've seen play for Australia for so long now, I think, Fergus O'Neill's definitely one that they'll be looking to.
I've heard he's got a bit about him as well, and given that message he sent us, the fact that he was still willing to talk, even though maybe he didn't have the ability to talk.
But honesty as well.
Exactly.
I want you to know exactly where I'm going to be.
I'm looking forward to the chat when we eventually catch up with him. Now, remember to hit us up on social media if you want to get in touch with the show by searching Willow Talk Podcast on TikTok and Instagram, and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Listener Sport. Now, Charlie Cricket 17, all the way from the UK, got in touch via Instagram. So thank you, Charlie, for this question and message. Who do you think will open in the World Test Championship final, as Constas is a good young gun, but Harris and Bancroft are scoring nicely over here? By the way, England will win the Ashes down under. So there you go, Charlie, putting his passport on the line there and putting it out there at the end there. It was all going well there, Charlie, until that last line. But what do you make of his question?
Well, look, I mean, Cameron Bancroft and Marcus Harris, it's good to see them in form over in English county cricket, but I don't think they're in the frame. I don't think they're going to be in the squad. It's, to me, Sam Constas, I think, will open the batting. I think that they had a plan to bring him back. Obviously, for some people, it would have been hard to understand why he didn't play in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, why did they protect him in Sri Lanka? I get that they took him on tour, and I get that they sent him home, but actually, why didn't they play him?
I think it was less about him and more about Travis Head opening the batting as the plan that they had conceived before Sam Constas probably even came onto the scene, that this is how we're going to win over here. They saw that template worked for them in India, even though they didn't win that series a couple of years ago when Travis Head moved up to open. I think they won and drew a test to finish the series. So yeah, I think it had more to do with getting Travis Head in the best position rather than Constas. I mean, I was a bit disappointed with the decision. I would have preferred Constas to play. I think they should have readjusted to what had happened during the summer. But it's hard to argue, I suppose, with a 2-0 result. And, I take it that the messaging to Constas has been pretty consistent that, you're not being dropped per se. It's a conditions situation and, we'll see you again in England. So, I think Sam Constas will open. If, I suppose the other options would be to move Marnus Labuschagne up from number 3 to open, which would then allow Cameron Green to play. But, yeah, my money would be on Sam Constas back.
Just on Constas, so you measure your reach and cut through by clicks these days. That's how it happens in the print form, the written form. After that moment, after that first session on that day at the MCG, has he been, I don't want to call him clickbait, but when you put a story up with Constas in the title, it goes well?
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's, I think, just speaks to just how he captured everyone's imagination. I mean, there's obviously only 11 cricket players playing for Australia, and then even from that number, I suppose there's only a few that really move the dial in terms of, these are the people these are the people that everyone's talking about. And he automatically went to the top of that list. So, obviously his form and performances on the field are going to have to dictate his position in the team. But if he's in that team, it's a good thing for Australian cricket because I think there's going to be a lot more eyeballs on him.
As we say here at Willow Talk, he's a lawnmower man. So if you're mowing the lawn, he comes in, or all of a sudden he's batting, you stop the lawnmower.
Yeah.
Halfway through, you go inside and watch. Yeah. And just an anecdote from my point of view, my 19-year-old son, who's probably more down the path of watching T20 cricket, he thought it was hilarious. He thought, what's this Muppet doing? Not Muppet, but what's this bloke doing?
Yeah.
Like taking on and just showing himself as a 19-year-old going, whatever.
Yeah, look, the thing about Constas that I like is he's a natural star, and but from all reports, everything you hear about him around New South Wales cricket, around the Australian team, is he's a very humble guy around the dressing room. Yep. He's listening. He's respectful of the coaches. He's trying to take on the information. So even though that side of it may not have been obvious when he's trying to hit the first ball for 6 out in the middle of a test match, I think he's impressed a lot of people in cricket circles.
So he's not walking through airports at the moment with sunglasses on. That to me is the definitive moment when a player thinks that I've made it. So
well, I'm hoping that this period has been a good thing for him because we saw when he came back from Sri Lanka, he had actually already made 100 in a one-day game, but then he went to the SCG facing Scott Boland and really played the most reckless innings.
He thought he was playing Big Bash.
You could see.
Yeah.
And I was worried at that point about just, where he was at and what the experience in the summer had done to him. But I think, Greg Shippett, the New South Wales coach, plus I suppose the other people around him did seem to settle him down after that point. And I think, that might be a bit of a turning point for him. And I think being a bit out of the spotlight for a few months will be a good thing for him too. Just go back to, playing cricket with fewer people watching. And I think this period has been a good thing for everyone.
Well, Australian cricket's got an exciting 19-year-old, but Indian cricket has said, I see your exciting 19-year-old and I'll raise you an exciting 14-year-old. Vaibhav Suryavanshi. So rocks up for Rajasthan or gets drafted in the first place. Everyone's knocked over when he gets drafted as he's 13 in the draft last year or the auction, whatever it's called. Then he lobs and, I think he hit his first ball for 6 in IPL cricket. But the other night, it's 100, a ton of not many. Ravi Shastri's calling it. He's going berserk. It's fitting of the moment that Ravi gets the call of when he brings up the 100. I can't imagine what the TV ratings were like in India, but the whole joint is going nuts. What have you made of it? How has it been reported? How's it spun around the world from a reporting point of view?
Yeah, I can't get my head around it. I mean, I'm not at the teenage stage yet, but you got teenagers.
Yeah, I've got Yeah, 3 over the age of 14 in my household. And they're doing okay. They're normal people, but they're not doing this in front of 500 million people.
Yeah. I mean, I remember growing up, Moses Enriquez was from my area, and he played first grade for St. George, I think, at 15. And I mean, that seemed like an incredible feat, and it is. But, you look at someone playing IPL with the millions and millions of people watching, what's at stake. Like, it's hard to wrap your head around that you could go out and play with that sort of fearlessness. So there's that side of it. There's the mental side of it, to not be overawed and just go out and dominate. But there's also the physical side. Like, how strong is this kid to be hitting 90-metre sixes at age 14? Like, it's incredible.
So there's the obvious is, I'll check his birth certificate, and they have, and they published it. The BCCI actually have his birth certificate, and he's born March 2011, so he is 14. There was a bit of confusion. There was an interview he did a little while back that said, I look forward to turning 14 in September of that year, which was 2023. So it's people like getting ahead of, well, he's actually not. He's maybe a year or two older, but you can only go off a birth certificate.
Yeah. Look, it's an amazing story. I mean, the state that he's from, I think, is a pretty tough place to grow up in, as there are a lot of places in India. But, even though I think he's from sort of a middle-class-ish sort of family, he hasn't quite had the hardship that Jaiswal's had, leaving home at 10, living in a tent. That hasn't been his story.
Muhammad Siraj, I think his dad was a tuk-tuk driver or something like that. He just came from absolutely nothing.
Yeah, but look, he still would have been, exposed to things, I suppose, that most kids around the world are not. And there's an intensity to the Indian cricket system that we just can't imagine here. The amount of matches by age 14 that he would have played compared to 14-year-old talents here is just, so his cricket development is just so much further along than what kids would be here. Whether or not that's a good thing or not, the jury would be out on that. I mean, I think I'd probably prefer the system where kids can actually grow up, but it's a completely different world.
We just don't want him to get to 21 and he's flamed out.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. But
you look at some of the other ones that spring to mind in terms of bursting onto the scene, not just eking their way onto the scene, but bursting on the scene. Luke Littler, the darts, Simone Biles, but I mean, women's gymnastics in particular is a sport that lends itself to teenagers dominating. There was Sachin. We had Ian Thorpe, and I bet you there were people around the world looking at Ian Thorpe when he won that world. He was world champion at 14, 15. And go, well, check his birth certificate. So what comes around goes around a little bit.
Well, that's a great comparison because, when Thorpe retired, like all of us who loved watching him and everything, you're willing him, just go longer.
Yeah,
but when you've been going at that level since you were 15, like that's a lot physically and mentally to keep going. So, look, I mean, what he's done with this innings is, he may never play a bigger innings. That's the thing. That's the bizarre thing. He's got so many years ahead of him, but is that the thing that he'll always be remembered for? You
hope not. You hope that he's got, and they manage it. He doesn't. I don't know what it's like there culturally, so I don't know if he all of a sudden becomes what we had with Sam Constas he's just the flavour of the month and everyone wants to know about him and everyone's taken in by him. So hopefully there's enough around the IPL for other distractions and other things to take precedence over a 14-year-old kid doing this.
Yeah. I think he first announced himself against Australia. It was a game against Australia under-19s when he was 13. And I know the players in that squad were like, wow, playing against your younger brother.
Well, he sent about 3 over mid-wicket, didn't he?
Yeah, you made 100 against Australia, Yeah. Sorry, Australia under-19s. Yeah.
Oh, well, watch this space with him. Heels did say a couple of months ago he's going to play and he's going to be very exciting. So, Lizzie Healy, once again.
On the money.
On the money.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a completely different cricket system, I think. Like over here, you would treat a 13 or 14-year-old cricketer like a 13, 14-year-old cricketer where school and all that sort of thing is a priority. But, I think the way that these young guys come through in India, there's not like sympathy given to them because they're 13. They're not treated like kids. They're treated, if you're good enough, you're going through. So
Pakistan a bit the same as well.
Yeah. Well, Pakistan has had I think they had a test cricketer play at 14. Crash wrote yesterday that India seriously considered playing Sachin Tendulkar at Test cricket at 14, but decided let's let him grow up a little bit, and he played at 16. But
I was still 6 years off shaving at 14. Incredible. Anyway, Mitch Starc, he took a few wickets, nearly took a hat trick. Appealed for a hat-trick, didn't get it because it missed the bat, but it was a run-out. So it was a team hat-trick for Delhi at the end of their innings against KKR. But in the end, it wasn't enough because KKR got the job done. But Mitch seems to be going pretty well outside looking in. Him and Josh Hazlewood really encouraging, and Pat's doing his best, but Hyderabad aren't playing that well at the moment. Yeah,
I think Josh Hazlewood, bowler of the tournament so far, he's been fantastic. And, I know some of the focus recently has been on his body in Test cricket, letting him down. But his transformation over the last 5 years in the shortest format, is amazing because, he never would have been thought about as a 2020 bowler. So the way he's adapted to that format is incredible. And, I think the thing that's most impressive about Mitchell Starc is, like, when you've got that sort of price tag on you in the IPL, like that, it's hard to imagine how much pressure there is on you, and they expect results. And, last season, there was matches where he certainly got hit around like a lot of the bowlers did, but when it mattered in the big matches in the finals, he was the one who delivered.
Yeah.
And that's why he gets paid that sort of money. And for all those years, like the 10 years that he didn't play in the IPL, you think about, honestly, the amount of money that he's left on the table by prioritising, getting his body right for Australia. He's very underrated cricketer in that aspect. Like he is really... He's about to play 100 Test matches, and that's happened because he's sacrificed things like the IPL to get there.
Absolutely, legend, friend of the show, and he's actually proudly wearing his Willow Talk T-shirt around India as well.
Oh right, I thought you said he had a shirt like yours.
No, not mine. No, this is my teenage son's. So I've nicked his shoes and shirt today, but no, Starkey represent.
That's good.
Willow Talk over there in India. Big game tonight as we sit here. He's gone AWOL again. But he's got something to concentrate on, Benny. He's got him and Ricky Ponting, the brains trust there with James Hopes as well. Punjab Kings got a big match because they had a no result last up against Kolkata, but they take on CSK, bottom of the table, CSK, but anything's possible with MS Dhoni in your lineup.
Yeah, they're going okay, aren't they? Punjab, they should have, if not for the conditions, they would have won that match the other night. And
well, they ripped their list up after last campaign. Ponting comes in with Hads. They really did a lot of... I could not get anything out of him before that auction, but they had a plan, a definitive plan. And I think they were pretty happy with what they got with Arshdeep with the ball and also Shreyas Iyer with the bat and heavy Aussie influence.
Yeah, hopefully Maxwell and Stoinis can find some form.
Yeah, exactly. There's actually talk at the moment of what they do with the IPL extended. I get the feeling it's pretty bang on. That's about the limit of what you want right now.
Well, that might be your thoughts, but
BCCI gonna do what they want, don't they, when it comes to this calendar?
Yeah, I can't imagine that IPL being any longer, to be honest. But a full home and away season, God, we don't even have that in the NRL. But look. I think it's only going to get bigger, whether or not it's the one season itself getting bigger or whether there's been talk in the past about a second IPL in the second part of the year. So, I think it's going to get bigger rather than smaller.
Were they just rumours or was there a bit of credence to that they were planning behind the scenes, the BCCI and the IPL
I think they've been looking at that. And I don't know kind of what format it would take, whether it's just a second season or whether it's kind of, a bit shorter and sharper maybe, but like a second taste of it later in the year.
Yeah, weird. Well, Jeff on our YouTube channel commented, this tournament is already too long. Need to make it shorter. Bring back tests. Fortunately, Jeff, I don't think test matches are going to come back in if they make it shorter or there's a bit more space on the calendar. I think it's more the franchise model with IPL ownership involved around the world. You're going to have I can see windows. Within 10 years, 4 windows a year, whereas just franchise and then all the international cricket has to fit around that.
Yeah, and look, the Big Bash may well become part of that with Indian ownership. It's not out of the question. Is
that bubbling away in the background at the moment?
Well, what's bubbling away is Cricket Australia having a really good hard look at privatising the Big Bash or introducing elements of privatisation to the Big Bash. So, expected decision on that maybe in September this year.
So have I jumped the gun on one of your storylines here for the next segment? 5 biggest storylines of winter? Is that one of them?
That's probably one of them, yeah. I needed a 5th one, so thank you.
That's all right. We'll come back to it then. Do you want to hold your tongue now? Or no, go, keep going.
Yeah, well, that's going to be big. I mean, we don't know what kind of format it would take, so to speak. Like, I guess the most recent example is what they've done in the 100, which is 49% ownership that's been sold. So whether or not they want to go down quite to that extent, but I think all options are on the table. And, the game needs another revenue stream here, I think. The states are crying out for more money. The broadcast landscape's changing as well. And also just the risk, which is a reality of being left behind all these other leagues. I mean, the Big Bash has held its own. I think it's still in the top couple of competitions in the world, but financially it just can't compete for the big overseas players, and we don't have the Australian players playing in it. So that's probably my biggest question. Will privatisation lead to a scenario where the Australian stars are compelled to play, and what does that mean for international cricket?
Watch this space. We're off to a quick drinks break here on Willow Talk. Back in a moment with some general questions about being a journo in cricket. Ben Horne is with us from the Daily Telegraph and Code Sports, and what do you put on your, have you got a business card? Or?
Code Sports is our official label these days, but Daily Telegraph, Herald Sun, Courier Mail, Adelaide Advertiser, we're going around the country.
What's your schedule looking like in the lead up to the Ashes?
I'm going to the World Test Championship final. Which
London in June.
I'm excited about.
Worst places to be.
Yeah, haven't been there for 10 years.
What did you and Dan Cherney flip a coin or something? He gets the West Indies? Is that how it works?
Well, he's got 1 child and I've got 3, so...
And the West Indies is how long a tour, and the World Test Championship is a week?
Yeah. But no, look, I mean, Daniel's, he's our main man, but he's on a well-deserved break at the moment, and, he did the last Test Championship final, which was against India. Hopefully South Africa can live up to the billing this time around, but it's at Lords this time, which is exciting. So first time it's been at Lords. So
with those assignments, who, do you get chosen? Someone above makes you've got a George Bailey in there and he goes, no, you're doing this and you're doing this, or you literally talk between yourselves and go, I'll do this one if you're happy to do this one?
Look, it's a bit of both, I guess. I mean, Daniel is a great guy, very easy to work with, but he's our main guy. He's our main cricket writer. So whatever he wants to do is his choice. And if there's something left over, that I'd put my hand up for that. But he's the main man, so he gets the choice.
So in the words of the 12th man's Richie Benaud, you work as a team and do it my way, as in his way.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right.
Pretty much.
But I mean, it's a great privilege to go away on a cricket tour, because it is just such a great experience as a journalist, and you would know yourself, Adam, when you've done World Cups and things like that, like being on an assignment on the road, there's nothing quite like it, really. And
there's nothing quite like a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're getting a little bit of shut eye, and everyone thinks, oh yeah, you're on the gas the whole time and you're just putting your feet up. No, it's not the case. Sometimes you're chasing yarns all the time, and then you get a call from back home. Oh, sorry, I forgot about the time zone. By the way, can you chase this up? It's like,
yeah.
No worries.
No, absolutely. It's a very intensive experience. I mean, when you go on a cricket tour, you do work every day that you're there. I mean, I know every day is probably not like a full day necessarily, but they can be. Like if you're in an Ashes series, and a couple of the Ashes series I did, 2013, 2015, didn't go very well for Australia. So it was on the whole time, with the drama and people from Australia calling for answers and things like that. And so, it can be, it's a long slog, and by the end of it, you don't have much left.
I will say there are maybe people, or probably people listening to this, who sit down and have to do other people's tax or dig ditches for a living. So we're not complaining about having to work on sport and having to just, get down in the trenches and do our thing. It is a privilege.
Oh, and I do love it. It's I love that feeling that you're there's always something that can happen, when you wake up, and that's your sole focus, is what's happening on this cricket tour. And it's just a great thrill, and sometimes it's very demoralising. Like if your opposition gets a story on you and that sort of thing, or you miss a story, it can be difficult. It can be like a lonely place to be if something hasn't gone right, you've got something wrong, or you've had a blue with someone or something, and you're essentially just on your own in a hotel room.
That for me is the worst. When you get something wrong, when you think you can trust the source, or you think you've got some kind of information, and you back it up, you verify it. You always verify information you get from a third party, but then everything about that is wrong, and you've burned someone. That's the worst. That is the absolute worst feeling.
Yeah, and when you're in the middle of something like that, it feels like you're never going to get out of that situation. Obviously, as the days pass, everything eases off. But it's great, and as you say, like there's absolutely nothing to complain about. It's amazing. Seen some amazing places around the world that never would have seen otherwise. And the best thing about being a cricket journo is the camaraderie with the other journos. Like the pack's probably getting a bit smaller these days with the way the world's going. But you are essentially living in each other's pocket for an extended period of time. Sometimes 3 months. And back when Crash Craddock and Malcolm Conn and these guys were doing it, it'd be more like 5 months. So it's a long time. So you do build, relationships with these people, and it's good fun.
Well, mate, enjoy your bacon rolls for morning tea over there at Lord's. That's what
I've been
serve,
exercising as much as I can now, just to take the pressure off.
The food at Lord's, far out, just keeps coming. It's relentless. It's relentless. Oh, here comes another plate. Oh, what's that? Oh, scones. Yes, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You beauty. Hey, give us your 5 biggest storylines to watch this winter.
All right, so my first 2 surround the Test Championship final. So I think there's 2 big selection clashes coming, if you like. The first one, Scott Boland is the incumbent fast bowler. I mean, he could not have bowled any better for Australia when he came in at the back end of that series against India. Outstanding. And we know that Josh Hazlewood's body let him down again, unfortunately. So to me, that's a huge selection conundrum, because we know how good Josh Hazlewood is. He's killing it in the IPL at the moment. Very good in English conditions.
Is Boland going to bowl before WTC?
It's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. And look, he had his own fitness issues during the summer that he was juggling. He's not getting any younger. That's the thing. I mean, Scott Boland is the understudy, if you like, but he's the same age as the other guys. Scott probably didn't bowl as well as what many people thought he would on the last Ashes, although he did in the World Test Championship final, which was in England as well. So I think that's a big selection conundrum. I think Hazlewood, if I looked at it now, I think Hazlewood will get the nod. But I do think they'll have to probably change the way they look at selecting Josh when it comes to a series or a summer. I'm not sure that they can just keep trying to play Hazlewood in successive Test matches. But I think in this one-off Test scenario, I think you just pick him because he's absolute class.
Yarn 2,
Marnus Labuschagne versus Cameron Green.
Okay.
Again, I think Marnus is under real pressure. Obviously, this has been going on for a while, and Sri Lanka probably added to it as well. Although Marnus, every 3rd or 4th innings, will come up with like a 50 or something like that really does contribute to the victory.
Like he did against India.
Yeah, and for that reason, I think Labuschagne deserves to play the Test Championship final. If he struggles in that, then I think you have a look at it in the West Indies. Maybe there's a change there. But also, and I know this isn't really how we normally look at Test cricket, but the Test Championship final is, in many respects, a grand final. The last 2 years have led to this point. Labuschagne's played every one of those matches. I think it would be harsh to cut him loose for this match. And also Cameron Green, I know he started with a flash over in England, but I'd like to see him sort of.
So it's June 11, that first day of that World Test Championship, I'm pretty sure, June 11, or around that date. What are they doing the later? Are they going to play a practice? Are they going to have a hit out? What are they going to do?
I think there'll just be a lot of training and
just go first up.
They'll probably do some centre wicket practice where they can simulate games, but they've really gone away from tour matches
Yep.
in the last few years. They just don't think they get what they want out of them.
Third story?
Third story, I'm going to say the England team, because we're looking ahead to the Ashes next year. They're going to play India.
What a series that'll be.
Yeah, so look, I think we'll find out a fair bit about some of these English bowlers in particular. And I know, obviously they're going to be a lot more comfortable in their own conditions than what they might be in Australia. But that's going to be the key to England troubling Australia in the Ashes this summer. They have to bring out some fast bowlers that can do some damage here.
They look to have a younger crop coming through, but sorting them out, putting them in some kind of order, to me, there's no clarity, especially if someone like Mark Wood's injured.
Yeah, that's right.
And Jofra, whether or not Jofra Archer, whether or not he can sustain.
Well, I think that's the key. Like, I think that, even if they only get 1 or 2 tests out of Archer and Wood, they have to bring them to Australia. And even if they're only capable of playing 2 tests in the series, they just need, they need to get there. As the 5-test series against India showed last summer, you don't have to win every test. It's 5-test series, but you've got to have some tests where you're going to bring some firepower. So that's big. Brooks' form is a question mark.
Are we still on the third one here, or is this the fourth story, Harry Brook?
Well, sorry. The other part I was probably going to look at with this series is Virat Kohli. Yep. Is this it? Is this the last time we'll see Virat Kohli in Test cricket? Because it has to be getting close to the end of the road for Virat.
He's been great in the IPL.
He's
been controlling games again.
He has. Yep.
So,
but and look, I don't know what his intentions are, but I think this could be Virat's last Test tour.
Okay.
And the fifth one, I don't know whether I can go back to the Big Bash.
No,
Adam,
put it in.
That's a big thing for me because that could really change the Big Bash and Australian cricket. I mean, look, just quickly to finish off, I don't want a situation ever like what we've seen in South Africa where the South Africans don't go and play Test cricket because they're compelled to play for their franchises.
Yeah.
And I don't think that will ever happen in Australia. But the biggest thing that the Big Bash can improve, if it is looking for a growth area, is to get the Australian players playing. Because I don't think the international players necessarily move the dial that much these days. There's no Kevin Peterson out there that's people are going to come and watch. People want to come and watch Steve Smith, Mitchell Starc, Pat Cummins. So if there is a way of getting those guys playing more matches in the Big Bash, that's the big growth area for me.
Well, you look at it, probably 3 or 4 of the biggest stars in men's cricket at the moment are from India. 3 or 4 of the top, say, 10, 12, whatever.
That's right.
They're from India.
And you can't get them, so.
And they're not going to play.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyway. Oh, there's your top 5. I like that top 5. Well done, Ben. Good stuff. Good stuff. Can you now talk us through, we've got this cartoon that was I was made aware of just before we did this episode of you in a promotion, advertisement, I don't know, something, about you, and it was in response to you calling Virat or pushing him down the line of Donald Trump, the Donald Trump of cricket, on the 2017 Test Tour. Clarify yourself, man.
Well, I think I need to very quickly because this was 2016, so we're talking about Donald Trump.
The first time around.
Not this time.
Not tariff Donny.
Yeah, and I
not ruin the world.
And it's grossly unfair to be
economic
contributing, comparing Virat Kohli to Donald Trump in any way. So I do probably regret that comparison. It was more around Virat's arrogance at the time, and that was sort of when Virat was at his real fiery, not really taking answers from anyone sort of time.
In his pomp.
Yeah. So there was a lot of aggression in that series, particularly between Virat and Steve Smith, the 2 captains. And then Virat missing the last test, and but India won, and he still came into the press conference afterwards. Poor Ajinkya Rahane. But yeah, look, Amul, which is I believe a butter and dairy company over in India, and they do a lot of these cartoons. So yeah, look, I was immortalized, if you like, in this cartoon.
Just clarifying, which one are you? Are you the one on the left or the right?
I'm the one with the receding hairline and the tie that's sort of down and kind of looking.
Oh, good. Not in the polka dot dress.
Yeah. But your former producer Sam Ferris has also been done up in one of these cartoons.
Oh, has he?
He looked remarkably like that figure as well.
So that's just generically
I think
the Australian press
they've got like evil Australian journo is like a template.
Was there any blowback from it, like with Virat or anything? When you
no, not for. I think he's probably on too big a level, and I'm on too small a level to be getting that sort of. But I think my accreditation may have been in some sort of jeopardy at one point there. I did hear, but yeah, no. Look, that was a great series. Yeah. One day I've got to print that out and put it up somewhere.
It's great. Oh, we can print it out for you here if you want.
You got a printer?
Fantastic. Oh, dear. Any others that you've kind of stirred the pot on, and things that you've written and that you've got some, standing at the back of a horse and all of a sudden the horse lashes out, you caught one in the guts. Have you copped anything like that?
I mean, it happens. I mean, usually it's just sort of run-ins with people. I think we went pretty hard at the South Africans for a long time there, like Faf du Plessis in particular, because there was a great rivalry there between Australia and South Africa, and I love some of the personalities in that South African team. Like, that was really hard-nosed cricket. And for a while there, like, South Africa, I think, for an Australian audience, were almost as prominent as England and India in terms of, just the quality of the tests and everything. So, yeah, look, I think, probably upset a few people in South Africa from time to time as well. Maybe felt a bit bad about that as well. It's not as fun as getting stuck into England.
Yeah. What about when you have to write a hard news yarn, or it's got a harsh tone to it, which happens sometimes in professional sport, especially when people are on the precipice, in cricket's case, of getting dropped, on someone that you know, respect, like maybe have their own, like you actually have their phone number. What's that like?
Yeah, it's not fun. I mean, and it's, like I certainly, my personality, I don't enjoy that at all. It's probably the hardest part of the job for me. And it's always, that's one of the things about being on tour. Like, when the next day when you got to go to the airport and you're in the same terminal, or you're walking down to breakfast in the same hotel room, like, it is a awkward sort of thing sometimes. And so look, that is a hard part of the job, but that's part of it. You have to stand by what you write and front up to the consequences, whatever they might be. And I always, if a player has something that they want to say, or an official, I mean, that's what it's about. And even though it could be a difficult conversation, it's much better to have that out. And they're absolutely entitled to their opinion backwards. So often I find, even if it feels like it's the end of the world when it's happening, often you can sort of build a bit more trust with people when you have those kind of blues, because I guess you're having those real interactions. So it's good, and I like it when players do that.
Have you got a story of when someone came up to you and said, "That's all right, I get it. Yeah, I understand"?
Well, I mean,
or do they
there was
just
a couple
give you the
of
cold shoulder?
Well, I mean, there's probably three players that stand out as like who copped so much in their careers, and always just took it on the chin, and that would be Shane Watson, and Sean and Mitchell Marsh.
Yep.
I'm sure they didn't enjoy a lot of stuff that was written about them, and but they always just sort of got on with it, and I really admire their the way that they sort of handled all that, and I think in Mitchell Marsh's case, that's really helped him in the last few years of his career. Just the fact that he has, I guess, copped everything you could cop as an international cricketer, and he's got to a point mentally where he can sort of park that to one side, and he's just been able to go out and enjoy himself, and he's had a great last couple of years to his career. Yeah,
right now he's really struggling while he's earning about $1 million by being an impact sub, by just swinging the willow, and if he gets out, and he doesn't have to field. So
yeah, exactly.
Getting his just rewards towards the back end of his career. Just back to impending Ashes, obviously you're going to build up to that nicely in your line of work. Have you got any bolters for us? For Australia, like, you're across everything that's going on at state level cricket, and the depth chart, if you like, around cricket.
Yeah, good question.
Because you get these little things that drop into you talk to someone, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, the selectors might be. It's not the selectors might be looking at this player. When you hear that, it's no, the selectors are very much looking at this player and thinking about how to utilise them.
Yeah, look, I mean, Brendan Doggett would be one to watch. I think, he's a serious chance of being called into the Test Championship squad, as I said earlier.
Yep.
He was great for South Australia in the Shield final, and I think, the selectors will want to reward people who are, performing at domestic level. So, yeah, the next batch of fast bowlers is the most interesting thing for me because Starc, Hazlewood, Cummins not getting any younger.
Yep.
And there will be a time when we need one or two of these guys coming up. Lance Morris has been handed a contract, so I'd love to see Lance Morris get back there. He's probably struggled a little bit just with his body. From a batting point of view, Josh Inglis, I suppose. I know he's not a bolter, but he's going to be hard to leave out of Australia's first choice batting lineup in all formats if he keeps going how he is, and if there's a slip up from someone else, I think he's the one who's right there. We need some more young batsmen coming through, though.
Yeah, not just the gentleman who we had a good chat about at the top there, Sam Constas. England, Harry Brook. So there's a nice little link there, given that he played a bit of grade cricket down here in Australia. So we made him. Hopefully he doesn't come back to sting us. But he looks like the focal point, along with Joe Root. But Harry Brook could be anything. England.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. He's the key. And Joe Root. Joe Root has never made 100 in Australia. When you look at his record everywhere else in the world, he's phenomenal. So I'm not saying that Joe Root needs to do that to prove himself as any sort of, but like if England is going to win this Ashes series, Joe Root is going to have to stand up and make 100 or two in this series. So I think Joe Root, Harry Brook, and I guess Ben Stokes.
Stokesy. It'll be good to see if Ben Stokes. You want Ben Stokes rocking up here in November, 100% fit, clear of everything. Few hurdles to jump over in the meantime. Obviously, he gave up IPL. Didn't get baited by the talk of perhaps getting back involved with white ball cricket yet. Harry Brook's taken that role as captain, but yeah, hopefully he can get through that series against India because we want to see the guy at his in prime form for this series.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, look, all Australian viewers want that. They want a fierce contest as much as we love 5-0, and I suppose we'll get used to that idea if it happens. But I think we love ding dong Ashes battles where it's really on, and to get that in Australia is rare. But England do have enough pieces there, I think, to really challenge Australia. To me, fast bowling is the big thing. Like. You look at how James Anderson, Stuart Broad, fantastic bowlers, but largely struggled to have an impact in Australia. So that shows how hard it is. And so, yeah, that's the big unknown. That's what England's got to find.
And the last one, it's a wide-reaching story question, but Cricket Australia, are they happy with the progress that's been made behind the scenes, i.e. with the pathways, with Shield cricket? Players coming through BBL, not so important, but it feels like for Cricket Australia, for the men's side, Test cricket is the absolute priority. The women's might be a bit different, but it might be more about winning World Cups and winning series when they come along, but Test cricket is not as huge a thing in the women's side of things. But both men's and women's, given that they've got all this revenue coming in with broadcast rights, with the relationship with India and England and all that, helping all those revenue streams, are they happy with where they're at in developing cricketers for this next crop? Because there will be a turnover, especially in the men's game.
They might say they are, but I would have some concerns. I mean, I think New South Wales cricket, which is where the bulk of this team has come from, has sort of been in a state of flux for a couple of years. And, Sam Constas obviously has had a great season. He's come out of New South Wales, and there always will be talents coming out of New South Wales. It's never going to change. But the development of players in New South Wales is a concern, especially when you've got someone like Jason Sanger going down to South Australia and after years of struggling to deliver on his potential in New South Wales, suddenly has a world-beating season for South Australia. That would be a big concern for me if I'm running New South Wales cricket. So, yeah, I think where New South Wales cricket at is a big concern, and I would be tempted to go back to to the Cricket Academy idea. In the off season, it produced so many great Australian players. It was abandoned sort of during COVID, but yeah, I'd like to see an academy being set up again, get some great coaches in there, even if it's just sort of intensive sort of 6 or 8 week periods in the off season. I do think more needs to be done. I'm not sure that the pathway system is what it should be or could be.
I'd like to see that, because in 15 years' time, when hopefully we're still doing Willow Talk, we can hear those stories that we hear from the yesteryear of the cricket academy of being sent down to, Glenelg at 6 a.m. on a freezing winter's morning, with rancid hangovers, getting in the surf and jumping in for a recovery session. Fantastic.
Yeah, well,
that's what we want.
Yeah,
that's how you make cricketers.
And it does build the bonds, because you get these guys, the best young players in the country. They all know each other from that age. They're coming up together, and as Crash has written previously, even the guys that missed out on the academy, that was a big thing for them. Like, they were filthy, they missed out. It drove them, Matt Hayden, these sort of guys. So, I think, I know that it's probably another expense, and, money's tight, but there's a big concern for me about what happens after this team retires.
Money's not that tight. They've got India come for a white ball series, and then it parlays into an Ashes series. They're going to make a mozza, Cricket Australia, which is good. And it hopefully it helps all levels of the game. We're just talking about the elite and the pathways and everything, but all levels across the board, down to the grassroots. Ben Horne, thank you for your company on Willow Talk, mate.
Great to be here. Thanks, Adam.
I would call it educational, which is unusual for this particular podcast. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Have a good one. That was Willow Talk. We'll be back next week with plenty more. Yeah, thanks for watching the Willow Talk podcast on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't have to miss an episode wherever you are. And while you're at it, check out these videos up here. They're mostly good.